They live by zeal for the Lord, abstaining from what God hates and has forbidden, okay, through his commandments, staving off evil by good. Now, like I said, this is a much deeper subject matter, because it's not things that you can just look at. When you deal with the Gentiles, they want everything to be easy and 100%, and I understand it, and whatever else. Just by looking at someone, you can't tell what's in their heart. That's why you have to test the spirit at all times in order to see if what they're talking about, if they're talking about doing, or what was important to them is ultimately working towards the will of the Most High. Okay? So that's why you got to you take this information here, and then you just kind of like start to apply it to the world. You got to start taking this information now and applying it to individuals in our lives. Now you think about King David. We'll take a look at King David, right? Because he did a lot of stuff, and I think that was the example. He did a lot of things that maybe a lot of people in this world would not agree with. If you look at it from the from the perspective of the Gentiles and how he was just destroying them left and right, he wouldn't be considered a man after God's own heart. Yeah, they're God, right? But our power, ultimately all the things that he did, worked towards the good of the Most High, right? Even while he was, messing up here, messing up there, making bad choices, whatever else, ultimately his life and his actions worked towards the good and worked towards the will of the Most High. Okay? Because you have people that are trying to the churches were the ones that set up one man, okay, one wife. The churches set that up. That was not something that was a Hebrew custom. And I've already had videos about talking about that. If certain people wanted that, that's one thing. If certain people didn't want that, that's nothing. Some people didn't want to be married at all. They wanted to just, meditate with the Most High and do everything just with the Most High and not have kids and not have a family at all. It was all up to the individuals, up to what the Most High put in their heart. You'll hear people will say, "Whoa, this is that's how it's going to be. It's going to be like this," because you're still listening to the churches. The churches were the one that set that up. Just like that video I just shared yesterday, talking about the Pope. All of a sudden, they get great information because it's like, hold on. All of a sudden now, the Pope's reconsidering the absence of priests. All of a sudden now, you're starting to hear history about how, it hasn't always been like this. And that, popes used to be able to marry, but, not popes, I'm sorry, priests used to be able to marry, but they would have kids and they would pass their wealth down to their kids, and the church didn't want that. The church wanted the money. So therefore, they're the ones that changed the rules. And they're the ones that said, okay, they want to make sure that money came back to the church and didn't go to the kids. So they're the ones that changed it so that the priests couldn't get married. Or so that the priests, and their money would go back to the church. And this was like in the 1100s or whatever else, thousands or whatever else, AD. So they're constantly changing rules and changing things, and our people don't even question what they say. That's, yeah, the Bible says that, but that I don't agree with that, or I don't believe in that, or whatever else. Well, that's fine. You're welcome to believe whatever you want to believe. I said, but you're not going to be taking church doctrine into our society. You're not taking Catholic doctrine into our society. See, they've set up all these rules that they don't even follow. They have allowed the priests to have sex with nuns, with children, and they've covered it all up. They don't even hold themselves up to the standards that they have set up for you as a parishioner to follow, because they know that stuff is not true. just like you said, like Samuel told David, what was it? If you wanted more wives, all you had to do was ask. And people be like, "Oh, that's not what that means." Like I said, I got people been coming to my station. I'm coming to my channel recently. Well, that's wrong, or I don't agree with this, and I don't agree with that. And I'm like, well, that's cool. Feel free to go to your channel, make videos, and share whatever it is that you believe on your channel. We don't need you to come over here and give us your dissertation about what you believe over here. You know, there's a whole lot of books that go into a whole lot of other information. That this is how things used to be before. This was information that our people had before. Okay, so our people we're always conducting ourselves like they want to act like we're supposed to be conducting ourselves in their churches. Like that's what they try to act as godly. Just come in here, have a seat, be docile, don't talk, listen to what the priest says, do everything he says, don't think for yourself, give me some money, get the hell out. Next group. That's what they teach, and what do they say? After you've lived your whole life and you pass away, and they have they get ready to have a funeral for you. They talk about how great you were and how godly you were, and you went through your whole life going to church and didn't learn anything. You went through your whole life, didn't learn a damn thing, didn't study, didn't chase the Most High. All you did was follow Satan your whole life. But they told you how great you were and how godly you were. You raised, you had a wife that you didn't teach anything to. You had children that you didn't teach anything to. So ultimately, you did the will of Satan by teaching your family nothing. And just being led to the slaughter your whole life. That's what's considered godly. You see what I'm saying? So please, I don't need I don't agree with this, or that's fine. You don't have to agree. Please go to your channel. I've been telling you all the time. Go back, and I've been doing it a lot lately. Go to your channel and go ahead and teach it over there. No problem. Okay? Next person we'll talk about. We got David right there. I said, you go through David's, and the thing is that we don't even have all of David's information. Trust me, there's other stuff that David accomplished and did that's not written in the Bible. So, to sit there and act as if you know everything that happened in his life because you have a little snippet here and a snippet there, it really is naive. But let's take a look at the next person. Another example, Judith. Okay, Judith would not be considered. Why do you think maybe they cut that whole book out of the Bible? Because she was not a shining example of what the church considers to be a godly woman, right? She used deception to get next to Holofernes, to get next to the king, right? She used deception to get next to him. She wasn't forthcoming with her true intentions. She got with him. Went with him in the evening and cut his head off and killed him. And, went back with the Israelites. And this was considered to the Israelites a great accomplishment. But to the Gentiles, not so much. But see, ultimately, her lying and her, using her beauty and everything else was used to fulfill the will of the Most High. He performed a huge miracle and saved his people. You see what I'm saying? So please, don't give us that whole, thing with the church and how things are supposed to be and what's considered godly. I said, because all those people that are in those churches that go their whole life and don't even crack open their Bible, don't read, don't study, are totally oblivious to the awakening that's happening right now. Is that considered godly? To Beliar, to the priest of the Mahan, it is. Because you leave as just as dumb as when you came. And that's ultimately their goal, to keep you away from the Most High. And you can go through the Bible and find other examples of the same thing. Moses, the first 40 years of his life was brought up following the ways of the Egyptians. So if he's in a high social status in Egypt, he's being trained by the priests of Egypt. I'm sure he's probably praying to the gods of the Egyptians, right? He's getting initiated into a lot of information that the vast majority of the people are not, privy to. But ultimately, even though and then he goes to his next 40 years in the wilderness, and the last 40 years with the people taking him, into the wilderness here again. But the wilderness of when he left Egypt and he got married and had a family and everything else. But ultimately, that's a prime example of, you start out a certain way, might be like, seems like it's an evil way and doing things the wrong way, but ultimately at the end, he's used to fulfill the will of the Most High. So it says there's two aspects of things. And people are like, like acting as if like all of a sudden, like now at the end, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. I said, you are what you are. You are what the Spirit has already been put in you. You have already been doing either the will of Beliar, or you've been doing the will of the Most High this whole time, because that's what you've been sent here to do. And I said, and it's a beautiful thing now because we've had our eyes open and we can really see, like, hey, all these people. I see plenty of people in my neighborhood getting up, going to church, thinking that they're doing something. I went to church today, and I went to this class for church, and you sit there and you just listen to them, and it's like, but as soon as you want to have like a conversation, you start talking about the Bible with them, you start actually getting into something, they feel really uncomfortable, and they don't want to talk, and they don't want to have a conversation. They don't want to have any conversation with you. When it's time to, when they see you, they start walking the other way because you make them feel very uncomfortable. So ultimately, who's doing the will of the Most High? If you're trying to tell them the truth, and you're trying to, get them to think for themselves, or the churches who are, leading them, leading them to the slaughter. Who's doing the will? Which aspect are they following? They're doing the will of their Father. That's exactly what they're doing. Okay, and the will of their Father, like I said, hey, they're going to make it look like, this is godly. This is, this is the way, you having your kids and, giving them everything that they want, and then you're doing a great job as a father because you're providing for your kids and you're giving them everything that they want. Ultimately, everything that they want isn't going to help them follow the Most High. Okay? It says that's just going to get them more into the world, right? Let's take a look at John 8:44. Ye are of your father, the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him, in his heart. And that's aspect, right? He doesn't have any truth in his heart. So even though he might perform a nice deed here or a nice deed there, ultimately, everything that this individual does is going to be for evil, because there is no truth in him, right? Because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So I showed you that this is much deeper. This is spiritual, and like I said, right now we talk about the Gentiles cleaving, the ones that the Most High calls, the ones the Most High has put, that thought in your heart to seek after truth. He's already chosen you. Not only has he chosen his people, he's chosen which Gentiles are going to be able to cleave to the Israelites as well. The church has made you think that, made everyone think that they get the choice and they get to decide. Ultimately, no one's deciding. The Father has already decided. He's already, guided our steps, and we make many mistakes. Said if the Most High knew that we weren't going to make any mistakes and we were going to be perfect, then there would be no need for warnings, right? Curses and punishments. But He knew that we were going to make mistakes. But ultimately, even when we make mistakes, those mistakes are still going to be used for the good of the Father. Just like let's see here, Judah, when he slept with his daughter-in-law, slept with his daughter-in-law because he wouldn't give. Most High worked that whole situation out because he would not allow the daughter-in-law to marry the youngest